Thank you, Councillor. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Haven't had too many of these discussions in my ward, and I apologize to Councillor Kiss for putting my hand up after her. But some of this seems a little bit backwards to me. You had mentioned that this is going to be the outlet for several developments that have already been approved, correct?
Correct.
So would the discussion around the drainage for these developments been part of original consultations with the community when the developer went to consult? Like, would this have been discussed during that process?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so through the pre-consultation discussions with the developers, we tend to raise those issues of legal and sufficient outlet. And these are initiated by the landowners.
Would the public have been aware of those conversations?
Through the planning process, I'm not sure when they get notified on that. I couldn't speak to that.
Okay.
But there are planners here.
So I guess what I really want to ask is, what would happen if we voted against this today?
So any decision of council can be appealed to the Ontario Drainage Tribunal or the Ontario Drainage Referee. Ultimately, this development needs a legal and sufficient outlet. Obtaining that outlet is very challenging because the city doesn't control those downstream private properties, right? And you cannot collect water under common law and discharge it onto a neighboring property. You need an outlet. And you can acquire it through expropriation, through agreements with downstream landowners, easements. Ultimately, the Drainage Act, when you get into a number of landowners, the Drainage Act is the most effective tool to do this. And we have the second most drains in Ontario for a reason. But yeah, the whole issue of legal and sufficient outlet is challenging because it's not controlled by the overall planning process for that particular envelope, right?
I'm glad I don't have too many of these in my ward. Thank you very much. One of the main concerns from my residents when this first was brought to their attention was the scale at 150 megawatts and approximately 400 acres. You did in your presentation indicate that it's gone from 150 to 86 megawatts. Can you describe to the committee what has changed and what has led to the reduction in size? And can you do your best to indicate the number of acres in a reduction that goes along with the reduction in megawatts?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so after additional discussions with the city and specifically feedback from environmental staff, they indicated that there were areas along the north border of the layout that from their initial look appeared to be wetlands. So we pulled the northern boundary farther south in accordance with the shape files that we received from the city. We, as Shauna mentioned, we've had a lot of discussions with the residents who live along Dunrobin Road, whose backyards will, could have a view of the project. With that in mind and hearing that feedback, we did reduce the footprint such that we brought the southern border farther north so that there's more distance in between those residences and the project, which should serve to significantly mitigate visual impacts for those residents.
Could you give me an estimate number of acres?
Yeah, so the total property that we have is actually 600 acres. Due to the floodplain in Constance Creek, we initially showed only 400 that we were planning to use for the project. Due to the two changes that I just mentioned, that's now been reduced to 300 acres. So about 50% of the total property area will be used for the project.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. And another discussion that we've had together and at public meetings is around the viability of this land to be farmed again someday. And over 15 years ago, we've heard discussions today about the Goleta, sometimes referred to as the Armprior Solar Project at the corner of Goleta Side Road and Highway 17. And that was that is on land that is zoned AG and was very productive farmland. And you know, we don't want to see loss of very good farmland anymore. And, you know, in fact, I don't really want to see the loss of any land that is being farmed. But can you confirm for me, and this answer is extremely important for me. Can you please confirm for me and the members of this committee and community that it is in fact your plan that you will not be using concrete in the ground? Certainly in the areas that are currently being farmed now.
Yes, I can confirm that. As you know, we've discussed, and I think is pretty well known in the community, the former DND area does have existing concrete already in the ground. But the areas that are in agriculture now will not have concrete, like subsurface concrete put in the ground. I really can't speak to the Arnprior Goleta project. I don't know anything about it, but it is older. My understanding is it's much older technology and conditions that would warrant the use of subsurface concrete. Now there's different technologies and ways of anchoring the foundations to the ground in situations where there's shallow bedrock, which may well be the case here. So yes, I can confirm that there's no intention to use concrete, and that one of the good things about solar projects is that you can remove all of the infrastructure and return it to its previous land use.
And then the other really interesting part of discussion that matters a lot to me as the representative of a community that is very proud of its agricultural roots and production is, you know, some of the conversations we've heard today about additional or different agricultural uses for properties that have solar panels on them. So are you committed to working with local agricultural producers to you know, ensure that this site is set up so that they could use the property and that a different form of agricultural could exist on this property if in fact the project does go ahead?
Yes, absolutely. We have been having discussions with Shady Farms already to explore the possibility of grazing sheep, which is, you know, as Lindsay mentioned, is not only another line of income for a local farmer, but helps us with maintenance. This is what, you know, what we're calling agrivoltaics has become a very popular all over in solar projects, frankly, all over the world, just in terms of similar concerns around loss of agricultural land. Excuse me. I believe we also had conversations with our apiary, the bee people. Sorry, I apologize for not using the proper scientific term. You know, to have bees and other species that would help to promote biodiversity.
Thank you very much. Last question. Just in regards to the consultation process and ongoing communications and conversations with residents, particularly the ones who back right on to the property where you're proposing to put this operation. Again, hypothetically, if the project was to be supported and you were to get a contract through the ISO, will you commit today to continuing to have those conversations with those residents to try your very best to address their concerns after the ISO hypothetically gave you a contract? I want some commitment that those communications will be continuing in good faith to minimize impact on anyone who lives close to the site.
Yes, absolutely. You know, we stand by our principle that we're always available. Anyone can email, can call. We've personally visited with several of the residents at their homes. We intend to continue that, to listen to concerns and determine ways to address them. We've had discussions with Mr. Plant, who spoke earlier. We're trying to confirm a meeting for next week, I believe. So yes, one of the things we pride ourselves is on really listening to the community, trying to find ways to make projects less impactful on their lives, and, you know, make it a win for everybody. We're not, I think I said before, we acknowledge we're not going to win over all the hearts and minds, but we can try to make it more acceptable in finding ways to bring benefits to those residents.
I think the 5 people sitting at this table would agree that it's impossible to win all the hearts and minds all the time. I appreciate your time today, and thank you for taking the time to answer my questions. Thank you, Chair.